All right, everybody. I'm back. Welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started here. If you have any questions, as always, please put them in the chat box. I'm apparently being a little bit technologically challenged here because I can't see the chat box anymore when I'm sharing my screen, but hopefully it'll show up here. Krista, I think you're on the call, so if there's anybody trying to get in, please let them in the room, but we'll go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to this is the February Grid Arlington presentation. We're going to talk about how to estimate renovation, something that I love talking about. We're going to go for about an hour here. We might go a little bit longer. But again, if you guys have questions, I'll stay for pretty much as long as you guys want, and we will get going here. How do I do this? There we go. All right, first, a little legal disclaimer. I'll give you guys a sec to go ahead and read that. I'm not going to read it all the way for you guys. But basically, all this stuff is for informational purposes. Certainly, do your own due diligence. We're going to be talking about a couple of deals that we have here as well. So nothing, no past performance is a guarantee of future performance, those type of things. And if you want a copy of this legal disclaimer, please email Krista, and we will get that over to you. And I'll be sharing her email here shortly. Yeah, a little bit about me. I'm actually already having slide trouble here. I'm Sunil Saxena. I'm not Dan Lesniak, even though I think the little tile might say that there. I actually have a medical background, believe it or not. I'm a physician. I graduated from medical school at age 23. Practiced emergency medicine for about 8 years right here in this area in Washington, D.C. area, the suburbs. I've been active in the DC real estate market since 2001. So this is my 20-year anniversary now. So feeling old, probably looking a little older as well. We pulled up one of my doctor photos from, I think it was around 2001 or two, and a different looking guy back then. More importantly to you guys, I've completed well over 100 projects in real estate development projects, all the way from small rehabs up to much bigger projects. I've got 4 amazing children. I think one of them might be on the call here tonight. Again, I can't see the chat here, so hopefully, Krista, if there's something in the chat, just let me know. You can text me. Oh, are you there? Oh, you got it? Okay, good. I do play tennis, golf, and I actually do a little stand-up comedy as well. In the last year or so, comedy has kind of gone away, but hopefully soon it'll be back. I am a best-selling author. I've written 2 books and a third one on the way. There's my various companies, and last couple of years we branded, Dan and I have gotten together and we branded all our development work as a Hyperfast Development. So that's the main company. You can email me there if you want to ask any questions or follow up with me at Sunil@hyperfastdevelopment.com. Here's Dan, and it's actually Dan's birthday today, so that's why he's not here. He's, I believe, in Montana skiing. I talked to him this morning about some deals we're working on. It's nice. He lives down in Southeast Florida, and it was like 75 degrees there, and he was 1 degree in Big Sky, Montana, where he was. So I'm still not sure why he made the trip, but hopefully he's enjoying himself and enjoying his birthday. And actually last year, I did this exact same presentation on my birthday, which is February 11th, which just happens to be 2 days from now. But today, or this year, it actually falls on his birthday. I won't go into a full detail on Dan since he's not here, but if you want to text and get a hold of him, there's a number there. You can actually directly get a hold of him. Dan and Carrie have been doing real estate well over 10 years now. And I actually knew Carrie, his wife, before I knew Dan. So I've been working with her exclusively on all of my acquisitions and sales since I think about 2013 or so exclusively. Here's a little bit about the Carrie Scholl team. Speaking of Carrie, that's just part of the team, a very small part of the team. They're probably about 150 members now. They're by far the highest selling real estate team in the DMV. Number 1 in Arlington, number 1 in the DMV. They're recently about 13 in the nation, and they're on track, hopefully this year, to be number 1 in the nation, which would be a very huge accomplishment. They sold, I think, over 550 million last year. Over 670 transactions. And if you are interested on the real estate sales side, I cannot think of a better organization or better group of individuals to be associated with. Today's call is more about development. That's what I do. I've dabbled in real estate sales more on the commercial side, but that's never been my kind of my main area. But if you're certainly interested, go to carryschollcareers.com and you can learn quite a bit more about that side of the business. So one thing I do want to mention is our investment opportunities that we have. I think it's phenomenal what we're offering. One of the things I always talk about in real estate is true passive real estate investing. I don't know everybody in the call. Again, I really, really wish I could see you guys and meet you guys in person. Last year, again, we did this on February 11th, and we had a room full of about 75 people, almost, pretty much standing room only. And it was just so much, nicer to have these things in person. But we're doing our best we can since this good old, since the Rona has kind of wrecked, or not wrecked, but has changed our lives. So one of the things that, again, you guys may be all different levels. I don't know if you're, brand new newbies in real estate or you're more experienced, but finding a true passive real estate opportunity is very difficult. I think everybody understands they should be in real estate in some form or fashion. But a lot of people have careers and jobs and they're like, oh, let me own some rental property. That's a way to invest and be passive. Wrong. Rental properties are not passive. There's plenty of work you need to do. Certainly wouldn't consider it a full-time job to own a rental property, but I've owned plenty along the way, and it's a fair amount of work that you need to put in. What we offer is truly passive, though. There's nothing you do. You invest. We do all the work. When the project's done, we send you back your principal with 15 to 17% annualized return. We actually launched our hyperfast development fund this year. It's only, we launched it in early January, so about 30 days ago. So if you're interested in that model, that's where you invest in the fund, then it goes out and invests in a portfolio of properties. But we are still doing a property by property investment. We're kind of transitioning right now. Some of the features is you can earn up to a 17% annualized return, a preferred return. It's preferred because the Class B members, the investors, you guys get paid before we do, before Dan and I get paid. We're the Class A members. Certainly the bank has to get paid first, but right after that, the Class B members get paid. We're very unique in the way we've set up our individual investments as well as the fund. We charge no bill. I charge no builder fee. Dan and Carrie charge no commission. So essentially, we don't get paid until you guys get paid. A lot of investments and funds, they're making their money no matter what happens. They're getting their fees and all that stuff. You may make money, you may not, but we don't do it that way. We believe in what we're doing here 100%. We have our own money in this. The bank loans that we take out are all personally guaranteed by Dan and I, so we have a lot of skin in the game. We do take IRA funds. If you're interested in learning more about self-directed IRAs, we are doing a webinar, I believe, next week, which if you're interested, please email Krista. Right there's the email, krista@hyperfastdevelopment.com. If you have any follow-up questions, if you want any of the slides, any information, she's a great resource, and there's her email. So yeah, if you haven't done anything with self-directed IRAs, please learn about them. They're kind of a secret that a lot of the big companies, actually all of the big companies, don't want you to know about. And both Dan and I have used them for well over a decade, and highly recommend a self-directed IRA, whether you invest with us or something else. I just noticed that the shirt Dan is wearing, there's almost the same shirt I'm wearing today. So we don't share the same clothes, just in case you guys were wondering. All right, let me just run through a couple of our projects real quick, and then we'll get on to the meat of the presentation today. Here's a project that we have under contract. We're going to be closing. We're not exactly sure it's either this month or next month. It's on 18th Street Northeast. Oh, yeah, let's see my. It's an existing multifamily building that we're converting into 20 luxury condominiums. It's in a residential zone, RA2. It's quite a big lot for DC, actually 4,500. Anything over 5,000 I consider a big lot in DC. This is getting very close, about 4,500 square feet. This is in the Langston Carver submarket, which, again, if you know anything about DC, it's rapidly transitioning. It's a great spot. It's where the trolley is, H Street, Benning Road, Bladensburg Road. There's a number of big projects there. One of the biggest is the Heckinger Mall project, which I haven't seen any development going on yet, but it's an out-of-town developer, last I heard, that's doing that project. And once that's complete, probably years from now, it will the whole area, you won't even be able to recognize it. We currently have 3 projects just in that submarket, and we're actually looking at a couple more in that submarket right now. Here's the basic unit mix. Oh, sorry about this, guys. Basic unit mix. Again, 20 units, building about 13,000 square feet here. This is an older pro forma. The new one, we're actually closer to about 6.8 million in out sale. That's something we're noticing in the DC market in general, is that it is at the moment very, very strong. We're already about 10% up year over year, and we're seeing prices continue to rise. I think there's many, many factors for that, which we can spend a whole hour talking about. But bottom line is that DC has always been a great market, and at the moment, it's a really, really good market. Here's a basic pro forma that we usually share. Don't want to get into too much detail here, but basically you see the purchase price there. We have some closing costs built in. Our rehab is going to be about 2.25 million. We've got our soft costs, our points that we're paying for the loan, and then we build in the loan interest we're paying back to the bank, as well as what we're paying back to the investors. And then, of course, our sales costs, paying the agent commissions. That's typically on the buy side. So our total cost in this project is about $5 million. Our out sale is about $6.8 million. So a very healthy profit of about 1.8 million. And that gives us a return on cost of about 38% on this project. And that's a critical number, whether you're doing a small rehab or you're doing something a little bit larger like this, or even a much, much bigger project, 100, 200 unit project that, we're starting to get into that. What return on cost is, and this is, kind of goes in with the presentation today, is that essentially you take all of your costs, right? In this case, our total cost is about 5 million, and you look at your return on that. So if we were making $1 million on this project, that would be about a 20% return, right? 1 million over 5 million. So really the bigger that number, the better, both as the sponsor, the GP, because that gives us more profit and more insurance that if something goes wrong in the project, there's plenty of margin before, the project would kind of, turn negative. And as an investor, that's something you really, really need to look at very carefully. Because again, there's a lot of margin here, a lot of insurance, so to speak, before something would affect your principal or your return. And if you're, looking to do, be a developer or a rehabber, that's something I always say is like, you hear, I had I guess I consider him a good friend of mine. We started, he's a real estate agent that, was finding me a lot of properties when I was doing the smaller stuff. And, he moved to, I think, South Carolina, but kind of that's where he was from. And, he's looking at deals that, he's making like 20 grand on the entire deal, rehab. And I'm like, one thing goes wrong, you have to put an extra HVAC system, that's 5 grand. Roof goes wrong, that's 5 grand. You can eat up a $20,000, profit very quickly. So the ROC is very slim on his type of projects. And that's why I like DC, because we typically can find these higher margin type of deals. Again, just to give you a little bit more on that, like I'm a home builder as well. I built a ton of homes. One of the reasons I'm kind of going away from that is because, again, our margins typically are like, 10 to 12% is a good ROC on a new home. Sometimes you're looking at 5 to 8% margins. And really, home building is a volume business. You're going to build X number of homes, and some of them you're going to lose on. Like, you already know that going into it. So that's not kind of the game I want to play. So that's why that number from a investor, developer, rehabber, a very, very important concept to understand. In this particular project, we're looking for about $1 million worth of equity. So if you're interested in being a passive investor and earning 15 to 17% returns, please email Krista and we will get you more information. One more project I'm going to run through, very similar format here. This is 501, 503 Kennedy, 2 existing commercial buildings that we're going to be converting to 26 luxury condominium units. It is more of a mixed use or commercial zone, MU4. It's also a very big lot, again, close to 5,000 square feet. This is another very strong submarket that I like a lot, Brightwood. It's right along the George Avenue corridor. George Avenue is developing all up and down. It's got little different pockets as you go all the way up to Silver Spring. But Brightwood I like a lot. We've already got 2 projects there underway right now, and then this will be our 3rd one. Again, it's just, there's certain little spots on Georgia that get a little shady, but overall, very nice area. This particular one is in a very nice block over there. of Kennedy Street. Let me see here. And no, that is not my car in the rendering. Unit mix, again, 26 units. We're building about 17,000 square feet. Out sale is 9.4 million. Here's our pro forma. Purchase is 2.1. Rehab is 300,000. 3 million. A lot more soft costs here, a little bit more involved project, 200,000. We've got our points, loan interest, and what we're paying back to our investors all listed there. Sales cost is going to be about 563,000. Our total all in, again, our total cost is going to be about 6.7 million here, and our sales price is 9.4. So a healthy profit, very, very good return on cost number of over 40%. This is kind of what we like to see. We look for a minimum of 20% ROC on our projects, but we really like to be north of 30%. A little bit bigger projects, we're raising about 1.3 million of equity. And again, if you're interested in this project, the prior project, or our hyperfast development fund, which is going to be a portfolio of projects, then please email Krista at hyperfastdevelopment.com. And Krista, if you want to put that in the chat as well, that would be great, because I cannot see the chat for some reason. Hopefully you don't have a button. I love questions. I really want to answer your questions, but as soon as I can see them, I will get to them. We have a Hyperfast Wealth podcast as well that Dan and I do. We talk about all kinds of things, wealth building, bring on guest speakers. We talk about self-directed IRAs, different strategies, tax things, all kinds of stuff. Please check it out and follow us there at the social media you can see at the bottom. Okay, now let's get into rehabs, stuff that I've been doing for a long time. I love doing. Now, what you'll notice is some of the slides tonight are kind of the stock slides that Grid, good old Rob Chavez and Grid have provided us, and some of these are my slides. This is just stuff that Rob is showing, great before and after of what we can do with properties. Another, typically on the left is what I purchase, on the right is what we deliver. Again, very similar thing here. This particular one is very nice. I think what they've done, they've got a couple slides here. They got rid of that massive, ugly brick fireplace thing that's just sitting in the middle of your house. What you're noticing here is that people want open spaces, airy, lighter colors, grays, whites, typically with a little bit darker floor. That seems to be what's in right now. That's definitely what we're doing in our projects. I think, yeah, again, here you can see what they did. I love the step down there. Kind of, they've just put that knee wall to separate the two rooms. Really, really nicely done job out here, I think. Here's one of mine that I did. I don't have the before pictures, but trust me, they were as ugly as those pictures you just saw in the prior two slides. This is a great house that I did in Northeast. Turned out very nice from the outside and the inside. You can see all the pictures there. Very similar, light colors, darker floors. This was just a very, very nice project that sold very quickly, because just a very nice project when it, as it came out at the end. One of the things I love about doing rehabs, I literally love just, seeing what the thing started with and then what the end product is. I still get excited about it. I've been doing this like 20 years and I still love it. We have a project that's finishing, just about to finish, actually. Cleaners are going in there tomorrow, and it's my birthday on Thursday, so I'm going to probably not visit the project till Monday, but can't wait to just see that final product where it's like, wow, 6 months we've been working on this thing and looking like a piece of crap all along during construction, but all of a sudden now this beautiful thing has emerged. Here's another just example of a 2-unit project we did in Northeast as well. You can see, again, similar stuff, very light, airy, open type of spaces, high ceilings. This particular one had a very, very nice rooftop deck, but I don't think they put that picture in here. We had parking in the back. The upper unit actually had 2 outdoor spaces. It had that little deck you can see in the front. You can kind of see that deck at the top. That's right off the master bedroom. You can see the inside view of that same thing in the kind of the lower right area. But it also had a very nice, fully dedicated rooftop deck to the upper unit. Upper unit we sold well above pro forma on that because of this reason. I think it was just great open space and a lot of outdoor space, including parking. The lower unit we sold pretty much at pro forma. So overall, this project sold during the height of COVID, right last year, March, April time, when things were just shutting down. No one knew what the blank was going on, and we did very well on this project despite all of that. All right, now this is one of their slides, but let me try to go over this. This is very important. And again, if you guys have questions, please let me know. This is kind of, you have to be kind of fast paced with this business. If you're looking for certainty, this is not the business for you. Tony Robbins always says is that the ceiling in your life will be based on the amount of certainty you can, the amount of uncertainty that you can handle. So if you want to be certain, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer. You pretty much kind of know you're going to have a job and this is kind of what you're going to make. In this business, it's a little bit more, you got to kind of roll with the punches. So yeah, we're going to be, you're going to be making a lot of offers and stuff. You're going to kind of have to get, good at, okay, approximately what this is going to cost me. I remember the very first, 2 rehabs I did. I still remember them like it was yesterday. I bought 2 houses in Silver Spring. I said, hey, I'm just going to buy these things. I think I have my numbers right. And this is what I think I'm going to make. And if it works, I'm going to keep doing this business. If it doesn't work, I'm going to move on to something else. And, here it is, well over 10 years later, it's still working and working pretty well. But yeah, I learned a lot from those 2 first projects, made a lot of mistakes, probably made about half the money at best of what I thought I was going to make. But, if you're on the starting out end of this business, it's an investment, right? I mean, I spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on my medical education. So if you make a little bit of mistakes and you lose a little bit of money, don't get to the point where you're going to go, be broke or like be bankrupt, but you think of it as an opportunity to learn. So we're not going to be able to look at every house in detail. We kind of have to make the offer, figure it out. Once we get into it a little bit, we can kind of have certain stages where we do a little bit more due diligence, but especially on the smaller rehabs, it goes real quick. You don't get study periods and all that kind of stuff. Again, yeah, we're saying you have to kind of quickly, make these offers and kind of understand what you're getting into. I typically go ahead and, I kind of a budget for the worst case scenario. Yeah, it's going to need a new roof, new HVAC, a lot of new electric, those type of things. So, if I'm surprised and it doesn't need that, then that's just more profit in my deal. But I would kind of budget for the worst case, and then you kind of know you're covered. And then again, yeah, at this point, I pretty much can kind of do it without, I can kind of just look at it and I kind of know what it's going to cost. Okay, so what I really want to talk to you about today is I want to take a step back. You might have come here tonight thinking we're going to talk about, hardwood floors and granite countertops and, that type of stuff. That's important, but I know a lot of people who have, I guess, done well in real estate, but have told me like, I tried rehabs and I just couldn't make them work. That's because I think they didn't understand this part of it. So while the construction part is very important, that can be learned. And another tip on the construction part, if you're really new and you're very, very nervous about this, again, I kind of jumped into it because I did have a little bit of a construction background, the years preceding that when I did my first rehab. But you can always, if you really want to, hire a contractor and pay them and look at deals. Even if the deal isn't going to work out, pay them to go through and just walk the house and say, well, how much would a roof cost? How much would HVAC cost? And you'll start hearing these numbers. You're like, okay, you'll kind of get an idea of what this stuff costs. And even, I wouldn't recommend trying to get a contractor to do that for free because they have, again, they're business people. They have to make money just like we all do. And if you just do that and use them for that, they're not going to want to work with you ever. But if you say, hey, I'll pay you, $300, $500 to do this, they'll probably do it for you. So that's a way to really dive into that. So now what I want to talk to you about is what I call the 5 major cost centers in a rehab. Now, this is whether you're doing a simple like rehab in place with which there's no, additional square footage or anything like that. You're just changing out bathrooms, kitchens, that type of thing. Or if you're doing more like you're doing an addition or you're doing a complete, rebuild. And this is the same 5 things, whether you're doing a $100,000 job or a $100 million job. It's the same concepts that if you start understanding, you'll be well on your way to making money in this business. Because what happens is every real estate meetup I go to, and when they start talking about deals, here's how it goes. I bought the deal for 100,000 and I put about 100,000 into it and I sold it for 300. So I made 100. I mean, wrong. No way you made $100,000. And when you watch the TV shows, that's what they make you think as well. It's a lot more complicated than that, and you have to understand all of your costs. So I'm going to go into these each 5 areas in detail. Those numbers you see are not like dollars. Those are just accounting codes that I personally use. You can use whatever you want. You can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use 100, 200, 300, 400, whatever you want. Another point before we dive into it is, if you're doing like a rehab a year or 1 or 2, and this is kind of a side business or hobby, you probably can get away without a formal accounting system. I still would recommend it. I highly recommend QuickBooks. I highly recommend you dive into QuickBooks yourself, take some courses on it. Local community colleges have great accounting courses. If accounting is not your strength, get some basic understandings of what's a P&L, what's a balance sheet, what are accrued costs. Just make sure you understand it. You don't have to become an accountant and get a CPA degree, but I'm telling you, this is how you're going to make your money. It's not made by, I saved, $500 on a countertop and wow, look at how awesome I am. It is about, this, understanding your numbers. So let's, these are actually my slides from a year ago. So let's see if I can remember and see what's coming next. But let's try to dive into 51,000. I label it 51,000. That's the accounting code that I use for my what we call finished lot cost. That is okay. Now let's what I'm going to do is let me go back to this slide. I have an actual P&L from an actual job coming up, so I'll go. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But let me just run through these 5 and then give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So what I consider 51,000 in my accounting system is everything to purchase that lot and get it ready. So in a simple rehab, that's going to be all your purchase price plus anything you see on that HUD. Right, your title insurance, your lender fees, like whatever is on that HUD, those are all extra costs. And I believe in the example you'll see that I've coming up, we bought a lot for 700,000, but really we had about 723 or 725 in it when you add all the fees that we had to do to acquire that. And when I say lot, I mean any property, whether you're buying a rehab or a lot like a home builder or the projects we buy in DC. So that's what you have to understand, like, what am I really buying it for? So in that first example, when the guy says, I bought it for 100, no, he probably bought it for like 110 or 120, really, when he looks at all his costs. So that's the first one. 52,000 is your true construction costs. That, again, that is your hardwood floors and your roofs and your that kind of stuff. You also have to consider any soft costs you have in there. Again, if you're doing a basic rehab, probably not much. If you're doing even a higher level rehab, or certainly the projects we do, you've got architect fees, engineering fees, permit fees, all that stuff has to be built in to this 52,000 number. And again, you have to make sure you track it very properly, and everything you spent on that job has to go into that bucket right there. Number 3 is, again, as I label 53,000, you can label it whatever you want. That's your finance cost. How much did you have to pay the bank to get this money, or your investors in our case as well? Loan points, anything that's related to the finance of this project. And now you may say, well, Sunil, I'm doing my project in cash, but it doesn't matter. You still have a cost there. Because again, if you took $200,000 and did a project, but you could have invested that $200,000 with us and made 15% that year, that's a cost that you still have to understand. So whatever that cost is, make sure it goes in there. And some of those costs on your HUD, for example, like loan points and any loan related fees we have on the HUD, that goes into 53,000 for us, not 51,000, because it's a finance cost. 54,000 I consider other. Again, you may have very little here, you may have a lot. Specific accounting costs, legal fees because of problem projects that Krista and I are very familiar with in DC. Do you have to pay the neighbors, which is something very unique to DC? Anything that's kind of like not any of these other costs. Were there any special consultants you needed, a tree person or this person? Anything like that would go into this other cost. Again, a good bucket to have to make sure you don't, I forgot I spent $10,000 in legal fees in this, and I'm thinking I made this, but no, take the 10,000 off. General legal fees, for your business, that doesn't count, but anything project specific would go in here. And then of course the fifth one is 55,000 sales costs. So that's where, again, are you paying any broker commission to, are you listing yourself? Even if you list yourself, you still may have to pay the buy side. So anything related to the sales it typically goes in there. And that also not just your broker, but or your agent, but also anything on your sale HUD that goes into sales costs. So again, your transfer taxes, anything else on that HUD would be a cost related to sale. So again, hopefully already at this point, you're seeing that example of I bought it for 100, I put 100 in, I sold it for 300 doesn't make sense. There's no way that makes sense because nowhere do they talk about all the stuff that I just mentioned. So let's move on. So again, like what I do is I take each one and then I break it down into specific codes. So within 52,000, which is my construction, these are again big buckets. It's a lot more detailed than this, but just to give you an idea, we have 52,100, which is pre-construction costs, 52,200 any site work or foundation, then framing. So it's just like a numbering or a coding system that kind of helps us break down each thing into different sub buckets. So even for me, like exterior finishes, 52,400, it has a whole bunch of subline items in there, siding, trim, brick, whatever. It could have a bunch of little items in there, but at least here's what I spent on the exterior finishes on this project. And again, what I recommend is even if you're doing a simple rehab, get like a master spreadsheet of everything you could possibly have in a project. And if it's a simple rehab, a lot of these things aren't going to be in there. Like I think you'll see on the next slide, this is kind of what I do for a like a preliminary budget. So you see I have steel in there. A lot of our projects don't even have steel. So I would just take that out, but it's a line item. It reminds me to think of, do we need any steel in this project? So again, when you're doing an initial pro forma or initial budget, you can't get super detailed. This is a can't remember which project this is, but this is probably like about a 10 unit project we're doing in DC. So we've got a lot of underpinning costs, foundation. So we just break it down into all the stuff. And yeah, you could make this like 10x or 100x more complex. But what I found is that when you're doing your pre-construction, it's very difficult to get exact, because you need a full set of plans to even bid it out. Even then, your site conditions could change once you actually get into the project. So, and really if you have a full set of plans, that means you've already spent, $30,000 to $100,000 with an architect. So you're already married to that project. So you can't then go, oh, well, the project doesn't make sense anymore. Okay, well, then you just lost your, all your soft costs that you put in. So again, you can see I have soft costs up there as well. This is just a sample project, architect, miscellaneous, and permit fees. We've got about 156,000 on this project. But yeah, that's just what we do is kind of a pre-construction planning, these big categories here. Always have a contingency in there. I usually go 5% or less. I don't have a huge contingency budget, but in this one, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's 44,000. So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about, each one of these areas, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit more clear. So this is an actual project. This, I believe, what was our, yeah, this is a house I did actually. I can almost probably walk over there from where I'm sitting right now. A house that we sold in August of 2019. Did very well in the project. We built the entire thing in 8 months, from literally the day I bought it to the day I sold it. 8 months, brand new house. Great project overall. So the first category you see, there's that 51,000 I was talking about. Again, I call it finished lot cost. That's kind of a builder speak, but it's basically what did you buy that lot for? And again, the purchase price on the contract, as you can see there, was $690,000. I apologize if this is small, but this is kind of the best I could do with this. But again, in this particular project, we had to pay the broker fee of $25,000. We had title charges, government recording charges, additional settlement costs. So we really were into this project for $729,368 before we even started. So that's my starting number, not $690 that the contract says. So again, that's a $40,000 difference right there. So again, make sure that you understand that. In this case, it was a little higher because we actually paid the broker. We had to pay out of pocket to get this deal. Now, the next one I'm going into is my 52,000, which is my construction budgets, both soft and hard costs. So the very first one there is my soft costs, engineering, permits, and architect. This is actually what we spent. We spent $38,801.54 doing that. Then you go to site work and foundation, then you go to framing, and then you go to exterior finishes, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see that this is, anybody who knows construction, this is kind of how a house is built. This is how you do it. So our P&L follows how the house is being built, which is kind of nice and a good way to really think about it and to keep it organized in your brain. So now this is just a continuation of the P&L. I couldn't fit it on one page. It just continues down. Now we're at 52,400, which is exterior finishes, windows, roofing, siding, stone, trim, et cetera, et cetera. We spent $87,503 on that. Then you've got your major systems, your rough ends, your HVAC, electrical, blah, blah, blah. You can see the cost there. We've got our interior finishes broken down by all the different things that we spent on this job. So let's keep going here. And again, interior finishes keep going. But you can see the subtotal of interior finishes there towards kind of the middle of the page there. Then I kind of call it the final steps. That's kind of what I, maybe not the best term, but the driveway, the landscape, the fence, any kind of cleaning, that type of stuff. In this case, we spent, I think that $45,000, that must have included some other site work, but according to this, we spent $54,000 on it. And then you can see that, on a brand new house, you have a fair amount of other, about $14,000. In this case, we put dumpsters and others, punch list items, utilities that we had to pay during the holding period. We usually offer a builder's warranty. We had printing costs when you print the plans. And of course, we had our taxes, property tax that we had to pay during the time that we held the property. So there's your other again. This is just, I'm just scrolling down a P&L. Hopefully this is not confusing. So basically we spent about, if you look at 52,000 total there, it's about 700,000 in construction costs. That's hard and soft costs. So here, $697,046. We had our financing costs. This is what we paid to our bank. That's the first one there. We did have investors in this project, so we paid them about $24,000. Any items payable with the loan, like points or those type of things, all are in that financing. So almost $72,000 just to finance this deal. So again, if you paid cash, you wouldn't have that, but what could you have done with that cash during this? This was a very quick deal, but let's say about a year time that these typically take. And then our sales commissions here were about 42,000. So our total project cost here was about $1.54 million. When you add all those 5 areas together, that was our total cost there. And I didn't give you the total profit or anything, so I don't want to give away too much information, but hopefully that makes sense. Krista, do we have any questions at all? Or I want to make sure I'm not just rambling forever here. I don't know how to see the chat.
Hi, Sunil. This is Marshall. I just posted a quick question for you. Are you able to share the characteristics of this house, like price, the square footage of the home, beds and bath, things like that?
Yeah, this was, I mean, yeah, I just give this as an example, like as a example, like project. But yeah, this was like it's about we typically build about a 5,000 square foot house. That's all 3 levels. I mean, all 3 levels, like 7 bedrooms, like I think 5.5 baths. It was actually one of my typical models that I've built like 20 times. So yeah, that was just the specs on that house, if you're wondering. Yeah. Assumptions. So that now we're back to their slides. So, yeah, I mean, I typically, with a basic rehab, I never buy it without seeing it. The properties we're doing right now, I don't even care to see them really, because I already know what we can do based on we're looking at the lot. It's more like we can do it all on paper kind of exercise. Of course, I do look at them because I'm more looking at the neighborhood, what's next to it, those type of things. But in general, yeah, I would never recommend doing this, especially if you're starting out, by never looking at the house. I do remember I was still about a couple of years into it, and things were kind of rolling pretty good. We were getting a lot of deals, and I had another deal that I'm like, wow, this is going to be a great deal. And so I think I had a couple of my kids with me, and I brought my contractor and my project manager. I brought everybody, like, oh, we're going to go do this house. It's going to be awesome. And we walk into the house, and we're like, okay, this standard Silver Spring house that I do. Everything looked pretty standard. And as I was walking around, I kind of felt seasick. Like, man, something was off. Like, I was like, what's going on here? Hadn't been drinking. I don't drink, so don't blame me. Don't think that was what it was. But what it turns out, the whole house was sinking in the back, and the floors were off. So when you walked, you kind of, you weren't like, your body was used to like a flat floor. And this particular house backed up to a huge ravine there in Silver Spring. I can't remember the exact address, but if you live in Silver Spring, you probably know that little area I'm talking about. So yeah, of course, the foundation was kind of sinking. And, we didn't get into the details on it, but I had to budget like about 75,000 to even 100,000 to fix the foundation. I, strongly advise against doing foundation stuff. I've only done one project where I knew the foundation was bad when I went in there. And it's just, especially if you're inexperienced, it's going to be a nightmare, and you're going to spend a lot more than you think. Can foundations be fixed? Yes, but they're very, very expensive to do properly. So again, go see the house is what we're trying to say here before you purchase. You don't have to do it when you're making the offer, but before your contract goes hard. Here's where, again, these are grid numbers. I typically don't go by square footage because it's so difficult to figure this out by square footage. But what their point here is that there's different grades of renovation you can do. And we, even now with our projects, based on the price point, we have kind of like a base finishes, our mid-level, and our high-end finishes. So when you're doing rehabs, think of the same thing. If you're doing a house, that's going to sell for like $250 in the DC market, like in Hyattsville or something, you just got to go rental grade type of stuff. I mean, very, very basic. If you're going to rent it, certainly go with very rental grade stuff. I personally hate white appliances. I think I have an allergic reaction. They hurt my brain. So I almost cannot put white appliances in. But, if you're really doing rental grade, go ahead and go with white appliances. But that's why I don't do that stuff, because I just can't do it. They talk about $15 a square foot, but I mean, it's just, I don't think square foot numbers ever work, because again, you could be doing 2 bathrooms and a kitchen and the rest of the house is pretty much done. You just need to paint and carpet. Or you could be fixing every room in the house, putting full hardwood in, trim, paint, doors. It really depends. And that number is, when you go by square foot, it's, it doesn't work for me. I can tell you that much. So a simple rehab is what we would consider anything within the current footprint. You're not adding any square footage, no foundation work, nothing like that. Again, just, paint, carpet, kitchens, baths, exteriors, anything like that that you can pretty much pull off and replace. Typically, you do not, need any kind of permits for this. You got to be a little bit careful with electrical and plumbing. But, if you're just moving the sink over a little bit, I mean, I wouldn't pull a permit just for that. Here you're at, probably about a $30 per square foot, according to them. That's probably a decent budget for like a middle of the road good rehab. Basic remodel. Again, I don't know if I agree with these terms. To me, it's really just like there's 3 types of rehabs you're going to do. One is in the current footprint, 1 is adding square footage, and 3 is kind of essentially scraping the whole thing and rebuilding. Those are your 3 types of rehabs. And really, whether in each one of those, you could do a high, medium, and low, right? I could completely scrape a lot and build a brand new house. And if I'm doing what, whatever K Hovnanian is building in, some of these like small markets, I mean, those are like cardboard boxes. So your per square foot price is extremely low. I can't do that in Arlington. We're building a very, very nice quality house. So my per square foot price is higher, but it's more about, are your numbers really working? And then, yeah, again, I don't know what he means by major remodel. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so again, what he's saying here is that, if you know the square footage from MLS, you can approximate your MLS or your costs. Again, to me, it's like, I kind of know, like, hey, a little Rambler in Silver Spring, the type of rehab I do, I'm going to put 50 grand in that house. I pretty much know it without even looking at it. So I just kind of know, based on the size and type of house, what I'm going to do, assuming I'm not adding any square footage. That's where you have to get the architect and the engineers and the plans and all that stuff in place, and exactly what are you adding. We've done a few of those in Arlington, the pop tops, as people call them. Actually, I've only personally done one, and I don't think that model, to me, works very well. The numbers just don't work that well in Arlington, at least in Arlington. Here's the same thing. You can pull the tax record, look at the total finished square footage minus the basement, if you're doing the basement, if you're not doing the basement, that type of thing. I typically, my recommendation is try to get as much square footage as you can in the house. That all square footage is what sells. So if you have an unfinished basement, figure out a way to finish it if possible. Some basements are plenty high enough and you can just go in there and finish them. Some basements, if you can just drop the slab a little bit, you get maybe 6 inches to up to a foot. That could be worth it. It's not super cheap, but you can do that, and that extra foot might all of a sudden make the basement work. I did one in actually Northeast in that same Langston Carver. That was just a simple rehab, and the basement, it was just not cost effective to really drop the slab and all that. So we left it. It was a little tight down there, but we just kind of finished it like with an industrial look, and we staged it like an office. So people like that stuff. We didn't like finish the floors or anything. We just painted everything, painted all the electrical and plumbing work, and it just kind of looked kind of cool and a nice extra space for people down there. So yeah, anything you can do to get extra square footage, that's where you're going to make your money. Oh, here, this is what I was just talking about. So this is the way I would think of rehabs, not like basic, whatever. I don't know that, like whatever. Current footprint, expand footprint, tear down. Those are your 3 big categories. You can do all different types within each category, but that's how you want to think about it. If you're starting out, stay with number 1. Definitely do a bunch of number 1s before you start thinking about expanding footprints and doing tear downs and things like that, unless you want to hire me and I could be your GC. Okay. I think that's enough rambling for me. Yep, we're about 7:50, 7:49. Do we have questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Janae from Athens, Georgia. This is more a question of working with an investor. I had a referral, an investor passed to me from an agent who had worked with him on single family homes. And he had a 1031 that he was already 15 days into trying to find a property. And I had a nice conversation with him, told him about the process, how I worked. And in this case, I had an off-market property that another agent was representing because she had a relationship with the seller. The seller wanted it off-market and only wanted serious offers. So I asked this guy some basic questions that I usually ask. Are you comfortable with the buyer brokerage agreement? Do you understand how that works? If it's a 1031, who's the exchange company? Basic things like that. And then he got like freaked out. You're asking me all these questions before you even show me some properties. And I'm like, well, this is unlisted and they don't want to disturb the tenants. You've probably run into this before. I bought some properties starting in the 70s, but not for other people. So that's kind of new in my retirement career kind of thing. So I wondered how you would approach this, and if it's just a situation where you just move on to the next person, or it's something with the approach. What are your thoughts?
So you were acting more like an agent. You're trying to put him into a new property with a 1031 exchange?
Yeah, I'm a licensed agent, but I started as an investor,
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest advice I have is act in your best faith as a consultant. I think that sales is about consulting. To me, it's about finding people solutions and giving them what they want. It's not about first and foremost you making money, which I'm not saying you were trying to make money. Like that wasn't your major focus here. But yeah, you'll get people in real estate all over the board. Some people who they've been doing this 20 years. They know, okay, here, give me the numbers, boom, 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 we'll do this. I'm dealing with one right now where we have, it's a great project. I really want to do it, but the seller is, I think he thinks he's experienced in real estate, but he doesn't understand how the TOPA process works in DC, the TOPA, which is Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, which if you are from DC, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not from DC, you don't want to know what I'm talking about. Essentially, it's like, the communist, state of DC that we live in, that the tenants can basically essentially own the property, even though you own it. So anyways, I don't think he understands that. And we've been trying to work with him and do all this. And we're kind of at a point now, it's like, sir, like you need to either, get these tenants out before we take possession or we can't do the deal. So yeah, I think you just educate the best you can, try to, be a consultant to the person and say this, this is why I need to know this information because it's in your best interest. I can make this deal happen for you. So it's always what is in it for them? That's what I always lead with. So yeah, that's probably the best I can do. But there's just a lot of people in real estate that just aren't that experienced, and they're going to kind of get in their own way. Like this guy I'm talking about, we could have this transaction done. I could purchase this property. He could get what he wants, everything he can have. He just has to like trust me and work with me a little bit on this, but he's, kind of got his own thoughts here. So I'm not sure if that deal's actually going to work.
Yeah. And just lastly, that was his first 1031 exchange. I've done several. And so to me, the question is similar to who's your lender? I mean, that's not a scary question, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if he's apprehensive, say, this is try to get him to understand why you need that information. You're not just asking because you want to know his personal business. But, in order for me to help you best, if you can answer these 5 or 6 questions, I can, make this process much easier for you and just get you what you want.
Yeah, he thought he needed to see some deals first. And if he drove by and liked it, then we could sign something on the hood of the car, which I'm not hood of the car kind of gal. But I always start with the numbers. If the numbers don't make sense, why even go see the property?
Yeah, exactly. That's what all I can tell you is that, just, not everybody's going to you can't work with everybody in this business. That's why I've definitely found.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. I think I got a question about some books. Let me think about that. I don't know no books on this, but I could recommend my top 100 books, including my own book that I've written if you want to check it out. Massive Action Equals Massive Results. It's on Amazon right now. But I don't know about specific books on rehabs and estimating. I don't. I've read a couple books on this or looked at a couple books. I don't think this is something you can really learn from a book. My best advice is what I was saying earlier, is that if you are brand new and really want to kind of understand the rehab side or the construction side, just get some sample projects, even if the numbers don't pencil out. Hire a contractor, pay him $300, $500, whatever it is. Have him walk through the house. He or she, I should say she these days, will show you what's wrong, what needs to be replaced. He or she may point out stuff that's like, oh, you didn't even think of. So that's probably my best advice if you really want to get into that side of it. As you may or may not know, that the 3 main numbers you got to know in this business are your sales price, which is relatively easy, but it's sales price plus all those things I talked about. Your cost of what it's going to take you to get from that place to a finished product that's ready to sell. So that's, again, all your rehab and your permit fees potentially and your financing and all that stuff. What's that number? And then what's your final out sale number? So I see people that's those 3 numbers is where one of those 3, they mess up. And then that's when they lose money on a rehab and don't want to ever do this business again. So yeah, I would definitely look at those, learn how to get really good at those 3 numbers. And specifically in that middle construction side, get a group of people that'll support you on this. And again, if you're willing to pay them up front a small amount, I think most contractors would definitely go with that. So anyways, any other questions, please either speak up or put them in the chat. And hopefully you guys found this informative. And I'll just kind of hang out for a bit here and to see if there's more questions. We'll kind of try to end around 8 o'clock, which you got about 4 minutes left. So anything, even if you want to talk about something else, that's fine. If anybody's watching the Australian Open, let me know. I'm a big tennis guy. I was watching until 2 a.m. last night.
Yes, Cindy, I do have a question. I am in Fairfax County, Virginia.
Okay.
And I've done a number of rehabs, basic rehabs in the current footprint, bathrooms, kitchens. And then I've been progressing in terms of how evolved, I'm getting into these projects. I started removing walls, opening, the kitchen for open floor plan concept. And then recently I did remove the low bearing wall. So as I'm evolving, right, with my learning of the craft, it seems like a natural evolution for me is just to start adding square footage now, like a bump out, things of that nature. And to your point earlier, I don't want to always bring my contractor, right, to kind of estimate this with me. So I was looking to really get an idea, given the market that we're in, how to ballpark based on square footage, right? I can officially estimate the remodeling portion of the property, but just that bump out when I need to add like a bump out either at the top, bump it out, or or foundation to kind of support the new square footage, what would you recommend will be the best way to go about doing that? And then just to add, the price point that I'm trying to sell these properties is between $700,000 to $900,000. That's the price point that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. No, excellent question, and that's great because I think for everybody on the call or the whatever this is, the Zoom, that's exactly how I started too. I was just, I'm going to be a rehabber. I'm just going to, change out bathrooms, kitchens, and then I had one property, and I think the agent or someone said, what if we just put a little addition here? We could get like $100,000 more for this house. I was like, my ears perked up. I'm like, oh. So if you're going to do an addition, you're going to need a basic architect. You're going to need plans and permits. I don't do it without permits because you're definitely going against everything and you're not gonna be able to sell the house.
Always permit, absolutely. And licensed contractor, so. Yeah,
I'll always go with that. So I think that's what you got to do is really, if you're doing an addition, you got to get the, at least the initial sketch. And then based on that, you can typically just send that to your guys and then they'll start giving you pricing. A lot of it depends on what you're putting in that addition. I'm trying to think back because this has been like a long time since I've just done a pure addition, but sometimes I was just kind of putting I was adding a family room, which is relatively cheap. There's no plumbing, no bathrooms. It's just basically going out like a box, hardwood floor, roof, windows. If you're adding bathrooms and if you're putting an extra kitchen, then that's where the cost centers go in. So you can't just say 1,000 square foot addition equals 1,000 square foot addition. It depends on what you're putting in that addition. So what I would recommend, first of all, I would highly recommend, cautiously, but go towards this because there's a lot more money to be made by adding square footage. So I would encourage you to do it, but again, tread carefully because there are more pitfalls here. But I would just get, for that type of thing, you need a very basic architect. You don't need like an architectural firm or anything. Try to find like an independent guy, again, who's licensed, who can get you the permits. I did all of my additions and rehabs in Montgomery County. I always lived down in Northern Virginia, but seems like the people who were finding me deals always found me stuff in that Silver Spring area. So I had he was a basic architect. I think his name was Andrew, if I remember right. But I probably have his name somewhere. And he was just like an independent guy, did it very cheap, but he was able to get me the permits. These are very, very basic. Here's the addition, you're drawing it up. You may need an electrical or plumbing drawing, but these aren't 50-page plans of what, the kind of stuff we're doing now. But once you have that, then you can very easily just email it to to your contractors and they can quickly give you a price. And it's not like you're dragging them out to the site and making them do a lot more work. So that's how I would approach it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Great information. Thank you, Janae. I think you can contact Krista if you want to, talk with me directly or do further things. We don't have any formal education programs on the development side in place yet. Dan and I are trying to put that in place this year, but we're a little busy with all these projects we have going on. They have a great education on the sales side, hyperfast agents. They have a whole program and, masterminds. I mean, it's incredible what they have on the sales side. So if you're interested in that, please check out, hyperfast agent. But as far as hyperfast development, just kind of talk to Krista, but I don't have anything like an education course or consulting yet that we're putting together, but we're hopefully that'll be there by the end of this year, by the time 2022 comes. Let's see if I have anything. Is there more down here? But yeah, again, any other questions, even if you want to talk about something else, let me know. If you want to tell me who you predict to win the Australian Open, please put it in the chat. I'll potentially argue with you. My oldest is 18. She's 19. She just had her birthday on Saturday, so she's 19. I think she still may be on the call there. Mia, if you're there, maybe say hi. And my youngest is 12. So I don't know if you were asking that to figure out how old I am, or you're just. Okay, sure. I think we're pretty much right about 8 o'clock. I don't want to keep you guys too long. If you have any last minute questions, go ahead and throw them in there. Oh yeah, the self-directed IRA call. That is, it's more of a hyper-fast wealth thing we're doing, a separate webinar. It's not necessarily a grid thing, but everybody's welcome. If you're in grid, if you're not in grid, it's a great educational thing. Even if you're not considering it right away, definitely get the education, know what self-directed IRAs are. They're very, very powerful tool. Majority of people, I would say, that open up self-directed IRAs, 80% use them to invest in real estate. You can invest in other things, certainly companies, all kinds of stuff. Very few things you can't invest in. It's a very small list, but please check out that webinar. I think you'll learn a lot. We have Jack Kiley, who's an expert in this. He's with Mid Atlantic IRAs, and he's very, very knowledgeable in self-directed IRAs, and he's going to be, I believe, joining us on that webinar. But I'll just hang out for a couple more minutes. Feel free to log off if you have other things to do tonight. And thank you all. And yes, if I'm ever down in Athens, Georgia, I will. That's Go Dogs, I think, Bulldogs, I believe, if I'm thinking of the right place. I'm from Ohio, so I got to say Go Buckeyes. So we almost did it this year, almost national champs, damn close. But okay, guys, I'm going to log off. Thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you. Check out the March event. And we'll hope to see you guys in March, and hope to see you in person in our office very soon as well.